And so the question is, how do you get through the peaks and valleys, and how do you motivate during the down days? Anybody?
So that's an interesting question. I had one of those weeks last week, actually.
We're here for you.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good now. No, sometimes just things happen. People get a little bit out of sync, and the main thing is just if you stick close to your vision and know that your vision is bigger than that day, and you just kind of breathe through it and just go and talk to your team and say. I find the most important thing is just be real with people. Just here's what the issue is. How are we going to resolve it? How are we going to move forward? So what? Now what? Kind of an attitude, and just because everything always gets better. Nothing stays like crap forever. So it always gets better. At least in my experience. So you got to just deal with the down days and try to just I find if I stick with the far out vision of where am I trying to get to, then tomorrow comes and it's a little bit better than yesterday and it's all good.
Eugene, what do you think?
So I actually think that the larger point is worth spending some time on. Starting a company is very unpleasant, very time consuming, will generally damage a number of your close personal relationships, especially if you do it with your friends, and it is a huge sacrifice. The problem is that because we all want to hear good stories, and we ask people to come and talk about their successful startup and all the money they made and the recognition that they got as a result. Over time, all of the painful parts of the history get removed from all the successful startups, right? So I try not to do this when anybody asks me about the DataPower story, but over time it's like a bad hiking trip, right? Like when you're doing it, you're like, why am I doing this? I'm never going to do this again. This is the dumbest idea ever. I'm hungry, I'm miserable, and I think I'm going to die in this canyon. But then a month later, you're like, oh, that was nice exercise. I got in shape. And then a year later, like, oh, I want to do this again. And that's what startups are like. And the problem is that, what you hear about as the case histories are always these successes where everything was great. All the co-founders got along, the executive team was great, the customers always paid on time, the product always worked, everything was wonderful. And it's an ideal that seems to be completely inaccessible to any mere mortal who's starting a company.
Customers ever pay on time?
No.
I had one. They went ahead. It's really scary. Like, what the hell am I doing with this check? Oh, right.
But anyway, my point is that just remember that, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's important to understand that it's a lot more work than working at someone else's company. It's a lot more nerve-wracking, and it is a big sacrifice. And people don't get paid for nothing. And if you want to go and achieve a lot of success, have a lot of control of your life, and potentially make millions of dollars at the end of it, you're going to sacrifice. And it's going to be a lot of down days, and there's got to be a lot of long days, and it wears on you. And I feel like people don't acknowledge that enough.
Yeah, all the days are long, really. Yeah, one thing you just triggered when you were talking real quick. The thing about the money coming in, sometimes people they go out and generate a whole bunch of sales, but then they forget that you got to go collect that money. And if you've spent the money before you've collected it, you're gonna have some really bad days. So.
I'm actually glad what you're saying, Eugene. That's your experience as well. Don't feel that bad anymore. No, it's super interesting, right? I mean, my two co-founders, they're awesome, but you're getting really down to the bones. It's like you have super hard discussions because I have an opinion and they have an opinion, and sometimes they just diverge. And especially if it's about money in the end, where you really care, or how the product looks. I'm very passionate how my product looks, and my co-founder is as well. So we butt heads all the time, and it's just something I have to learn to deal with, and he has to learn to deal with me, and it's hard. Sometimes I feel like not working, but then the next day I'm like, hey, there's an immense opportunity here, and I do that evaluation. Yes, it is worth it, and I know where we're going, and then 2 days later it's the best day again, but it's definitely up and down.
One of the things is you talk about the team. If you've got a team, you're a leader. And leadership skills means keeping people motivated, sometimes bearing the burden on your shoulders to keep them in a place. But also, at the same time, don't sacrifice the team for one bad apple. I.e., one bad person that's there. Don't sacrifice the whole team for that, because you're trying to protect the whole company. The other aspect is when you do get those bad days, you need a good support infrastructure. So your partner is important. They've got to support you. Don't start a business if your partner doesn't support you, because they will undermine you far easier than anything else. I'm lucky. I have a very understanding wife who puts up with me and also supports me when they see me through the good and the bad. Also, your colleagues also read stuff about it, about how people go through business, about what it is. Some of it might be, oh yeah, I know that, but it helps build your confidence in where you are. Confidence is what gives you that strength to keep fighting forward. And but it has to come from within, and it is a very, very tough journey at times. And most of the time you're kind of there, but you're going to dive down, and then you're going to have that brief moment of happiness, and then you're back to normal and the normal issues. Like when you get that check, if you get that check ahead of time, don't spend it on the first day. That's like a boring accountant. Map the money out across the whole contract so that you don't spend it, because otherwise you'll run out of money before you finish the contract.
Another little trick related to the money. One thing we've done successfully on a number of occasions is actually get the customer to pay us ahead of time for something we hadn't even built yet. We had some, a number of companies, we had training courses that they wanted, and they knew we had the right skill sets to build it. So we just said, all right, we'll pay us half up front and pay us half when it's done, and that we basically funded product development through doing that. And that's actually helped Bootstrap a lot. If you can do that, look for opportunities there.
Another trick is have social events where you get out of the office, you stop living in that dark hole, staring at the screen, take your team out of your group or whatever, go out and have a little spread. Don't go crazy, it's not .com time, okay?
No air on chairs.
But at least go out and have a meal, or go in a park. It's like everything. Go and walk, get out. Sorry, yes.
So it absolutely is.
So the question is about customers and how to get large customers and how to use those to get additional customers.
Okay. Yeah, you never choose the customer.
As soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as exactly.
You target more than one. I mean, just go after them, because before you start the business, go hunting.
Right. Everyone's approachable, even if they, you'd be surprised. Even CEOs in major companies, they're approachable if you are persistent enough. I heard a story recently about a guy that wanted to get in touch with the CEO of a major company. And he found out that the guy was flying to Boston from California, so he bought a plane ticket in first class so he could sit next to the guy for 2 hours or 6 hours or whatever. And he sat down and chatted with him. He actually got a deal out of it. So you got to be creative sometimes. But once you actually have them, you can leverage. It's a little tricky in security to leverage them sometimes because they don't always want to be named, especially early on. So, but what you can usually do is you can usually informally name them when you're talking to other people. You just can't put them on your website. But you can, if you're going for investors, absolutely you can talk about it because they're going to be potentially partnering in your company. So there is that kind of thing as well you can do.
I mean, sometimes you can put it in the contract. You say, well, we give you a little bit of a rebate, and you let us name you. I've done that in the past. Company.
Good question. So the question is, how do you know when to get rid of customers that are deadwood customers?
If they're costing you more money than they're worth, if it's basically costing you money, you're not making anything from it, or if it's kind of like a break even and it's just causing you a lot of anxiety and stress, not worth it. Life's too short.
I think you have to set expectations from the beginning, right? I mean, I have 5 beta customers on right now. They're not paying anything. I mean, they wouldn't pay anything because it's sort of working, right? At some point I have to cut them loose, or I have to do something with them. So I have to be upfront with them. Look, this is the deal. You get it till September, and then you pay the regular